Hello there, this is Armand Castro from Evil Planet Games and Nevermore Graphics, and today we are going to be taking a look at my all-purpose VFX packs for Unreal Engine. This asset pack is available for Unreal Engine 4.27, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8. However, as pointed out by several clients, if you let me know that you need a particular version of Unreal Engine, I will upload one for your particular version. And also, if you need something special, I do read all comments and I will create that asset for you. Well, for a future version of this asset pack. Also, this asset pack is perfect for you if you're building a game. It is a third-person shooter, first-person shooter, or really any game that requires visual effects or damage effects. This is ideal for any game, especially action, horror, all that good stuff. And, well, without further ado, let's get started. So we have, first and foremost, electricity. And with electricity, we also have electricity for, electrocuting, electrifying stuff like cylindrical objects, such as poles. You can also put that on a character, such as this one. We also have grounding arcs, again, perfect for characters, but ideally I made them for stuff like electrical transformers. I have been using this particular asset pack on my own video game. It's called Dungeon, and it will be available on Steam and GOG. So GOG. Good old games. So we also have electrical arcs for spherical objects, such as balls or even a head, a character's head, and side-to-side electric arcs, for hazards or for short circuits. It works perfectly. And if you do have electric sparks, we also have fire. We have fire sparks, a blowtorch, a fire leak, which is very similar to a blowtorch. We have a candle flame. If you have candles, we have, it's really hard to ignore. Heat distortion, which you do have controls. So right now it's set to a very high number, just so it's noticeable. So we have smokeless fire and fire with smoke. I don't know if you can see the smoke rising from the fire. We also have flamethrower, which is perfect for any action game. We have ceiling fire and wall fire and floor fire. So you can set on fire scenes. This is also a pole fire. So, if you have some kind of support structure in your game, like a column, that's perfect to set that on fire. And I'm going to be showing you how to tailor it to your particular level. Now, because this is made across so many versions of Unreal Engine, all these will vary between versions of Unreal Engine. However, I'm going to be talking about that in a later portion of this overview, which will be a tutorial, and you will be learning how to tailor it to your particular version and any particular future problems that you may encounter because of these of how these different versions of Unreal Engine handle this type of assets. But moving on, we have also sparks. We have electrical sparks. We have machinery sparks. So if you have stuff like grinding gears, which I do in my game, we have short circuit sparks, which would be the electrical sparks. We also have smoke. Where there is fire, there is also smoke. So we also have smoke. We have bursts for when you hit with a bullet. We have dust puffs. We have smoke puffs. We have smoke columns of two different types. We have thick, which doesn't mean it is thick as in physically thick, as in very dense smoke. So that's what I meant with thick. We also have thin, which in this case I do mean physically thin, which is different. We have fog, and we have ceiling smoke because we do have ceiling fire. We also have water explosions. If you have a water jug exploding, we have small ones, we have large ones, we have drips or drops, we have liquid flows, both thick and thin. So this would be used for stuff like I don't know if you can see it, for a faucet or something like that. We have thick flow. We also have liquid spills. We have bubbles. And these liquid spills are perfect if you want to just have them on their own, but also you can combine them with this one just so the liquid flow thing looks a little more violent, a little more bountiful, if you want to call it that. We also have bubbles, which these particular ones are underwater bubbles, but if you do want like actual soap bubbles, I can add that if you want. I just didn't think most people would need those, so yeah, just let me know, and if there is enough people asking for it, I will definitely add them. But these particular bubbles are ideally for underwater stuff. I use them in my game for when the character is breathing underwater, so he's releasing bubbles, blah blah blah, you know, that kind of thing. There's also water whirlpools, which this one is for like a toilet. I used it in my other asset pack, the I don't even remember now. I think it's the one from the mortuary, I think. And there's a toilet there, and when you flush the toilet, you can see the water in the toilet swirling. So this is what this is for. Okay, so we also have rain, which I don't know if you can... Okay, yeah, you can't see it probably there. It wasn't very visible from there, from those angles. But yeah. There's rain. There's also paint. You know what I'm saying? You know, the red kind of paint. I mean, you can actually colorize it in any color you want. So it can, in fact, be paint. But right now it's paint. If you know what I'm saying, I don't want to be demonetized. So there's paint spills, just like there's water spills. There is paint streams if you want something particularly painty. There's paint streams, there's thick and thin. There is paint explosions for those scenes where there is a lot of violence, you know, breaking cans of paint and such. There's fireworks. Right, and there's also weapon particles, because obviously this is an an action asset pack. So obviously you have blood hits. I forgot to call it paint in this case. There's default hits, glass, metal with sparks, ice and snow, sand, stone, and wood. And obviously projectile, if you have stuff like rockets and projectiles, you can totally use those for that. And absolutely explosions, both with and without debris. There's also muzzle flares, which you obviously can edit these into different colors, so, or different sizes. I'll show you later how to do that. But there is your basic shapes. So you don't necessarily have to have that one in blue. You can make it fire colored or whatever. Yeah. There is glass, breaking glass, which could be used as a hit effect, but I made it its own particle system because it's not just a hit, it's some kind of glass explosion. So you can make it bigger and smaller. just to, depending on the size of the glass you're breaking. There's insects, so there's flies in case there's something rotting. There is moths if you have a light source, which I use this one in my cemetery pack. There's wetness decals, so for stuff like paint bottles, paint leaks, you know, in case there's some violence. And there's also water. These are slightly different from this ones, as you can see. They are slightly textured. There are some normals to them, which, by the way, you can edit, so don't worry about that. These are just presets. There is bullet holes, so there is dirt, sand, glass, some wounds. It was a little too much to call them paint, but yeah, you can actually change the color and shoot a kind of paint. There is ice and snow. There's broken screens. There's wood damage, so there's slashes, bullet holes. Originally, we only have the bullet holes, but I decided to add the other holes, so wall holes through. There's metal, which is the reason why I added to this asset pack this blue light, so you can actually appreciate. And these all have, as you can see, some parallax occlusion mapping. It looks really cool. Obviously, the effect kind of breaks if you look at it at a certain angle, but you know, if you want to waste your frame rate a little bit, you can actually fix that. It'll just, you know, kill your frame rate. So yeah, it depends on how much you want your effects to be seamless. But I mean, as they are right now, they work fine. And as you can see, these through bullet holes, they have also parallax occlusion mapping. You have this effect where you can see through. There is bullet holes. Again, shotgun, single gun, different sizes, different types of wall holes. If you have brick walls, if you have rebar walls, you know, concrete. And you have cracks too, which I use all of these. They are awesome. I absolutely love them, even though, you know, I made them myself. Yeah. The reason I am selling them, it's because I can get behind them. They are really cool. So this concludes the overview portion of this asset pack. If you liked this this video, please like, follow, and subscribe. If you didn't, well, don't dislike if you want to. But if you want to learn how to use this asset pack, stick around because I'm going to show you. So I assume you actually liked it and or are at least curious and would like to know more about this asset pack, so I'm going to show you. So first of all, as with all my asset packs, all these are color coded. The folders are color coded, and they are color coded depending on the type of asset we are dealing with. We have meshes, we have materials, maps, textures, VFX, blueprints, all of that good stuff. And each object, oops, I actually forgot to put these ones. I make sure to put these where they need to in the final version. But yeah, these are also corresponding to their place. So like, for example, the bullet hits, we have them here, and this ones obviously are just the decals. The important ones are the hit paint, blah blah blah, which hit, and you can find them there. Anyway, moving on. There are the hits. Anyway, moving on. Sorry, spaced out there for a while. Moving on, how do you use them? How can you get the most out of this asset pack? Well, let's take this one, for example. You can actually come down here to the assets details, and you can change the color, for example, of the electric arches or arcs. As you can see, you can give them any color you want. Green for magic, you know, purple, or even red, so it looks diabolical. You can also change the lifetime to something more snappy, or, you know, obviously if you have that much, you have to change the spawn rate to something, you know, slower. But yeah, those are available for most of these. Obviously there is some contextual ones for depending on what the asset is. Obviously you don't need spawn rate for certain types of particle systems, but yeah, most of them have spawn rate. They have lifetime. Some of them actually don't have. You can actually change the lifetime, but you don't need to, because they kind of look bad. But yeah, there is min and max lightning size for this one, for example. And if you have taller, let's make the spawn rate a little higher, just so you can appreciate. So maybe you have larger poles. Well, you can just tweak the size. You can make it shorter. You can make it, obviously, if you have a longer pole, you may want to make the spawn rate a little higher, you know. There's obviously lightning size, so if you have a smaller object, obviously you may want smaller lightnings. You also have the lifetime, so it could be flashes, or it could be like these ones. That depends very much on your case use. And coming down here, it's just light renderer, and with all of these we have, well, at least most of the ones that involve light. Obviously dust doesn't have it, but stuff like fire or lightnings, they have this little thing, the light renderer. And if you get rid of it, let's just turn it off. It stops casting light, so you don't want it to cast some light. This is Unreal Engine 5.1, I think. Let me check. Let me make sure. 5.1, correct. So this is Unreal Engine 5.1, and unfortunately, all these Unreal versions have little quirks, let's just say. So stuff like the lighting and the light that these particles emit, they do change, unfortunately. So depending on your version, it may be casting more or less light. In some cases, I try to make it similar, but they are going to be ranging. So make sure if you don't like how much light it is casting, this one, for example, where I'm referring to default exponent, it will be depending on the radius. So these work together. So the radius, that's how far it goes, but now it's too bright. So this one, you can make it smaller. And it's still a little too much. So let's go with 3, and let's go with 1. So 3 and 35, the smaller this number is, the brighter it becomes. right? The bigger, the fainter. Now, this one, however, is how much area this goes over. So it's very counterintuitive, so you're gonna have to fiddle a little bit with it. Like that, for example. So it depends very much on what are you using here. And like I said, these values, I don't know why, but they change a lot between Unreal Engine versions. So that really sucks. Anyway, moving on. Same kind of settings with this one and this one and this one. Only change is gonna be the lifetime, the stuff like we have different settings. This one, for example, does not have spawn rate, I think, which is lightning size, I think. Yeah, because I tried lightning size and it kind of messed everything up. And if you want a bigger object, you can obviously do that. Or a smaller, you know, you can just do that. And again, the spawn rate, you can electrify harder, something, softer, whatever. Moving on, we have fire, and this one is gonna take a while. So let's start with the simplest ones, which is the fire sparks, which is nothing more than this fire. In fact, it even has the same settings, except this one is the smokeless fire. Excuse me, that's the one. So the smokeless fire, I obviously got rid of the fire and amped the amount of sparks. But if we actually just reset all the settings, it just turns into this one. Moving on, we have a blowtorch, and we do have some nice settings with this one. So we have the fire dimensions. You can make it longer, and you can make it fatter. You can change the fire amount, although it doesn't change much. It's like a weaker blowtorch. You can change the fire angle. And you can change the torch power. This one should be very similar, but it's not, because you can actually change the color of the fire. Maybe something magical. And you can truthfully change the color of any of these fires, except this one is easy air. And let me show you why in a little bit, but for now, let's just... So if you do stuff like change the lifetime fire, the lifetime of the particle lasts longer, so it looks better. So you need to actually do that. But in that case, why not just use the flamethrower? There's also candle fire, which is super freaking simple. Basically, you can turn it on and off, that's all. And that's because it is a very simple and very cheap, by the way, just 2 particles per second. We also have smokeless fire and smoked fire. Both of them are very, very similar, except one of them has obviously smoke. But if you want to, like, it's just cheaper because it doesn't have to bother with the code that pertains to the smoke. That's pretty much it. They do exactly the same. You can change the fire amount. You can change the smoke amount. You can change the smoke color, smoke opacity. The spark buoyancy, the sparks can go faster or slower. You can change the spark amount, and that's what you can use for this one. spark lifetime, so that's how far they go. The spark size, so if you want your sparks to be more visible, sometimes if you are like too far, the sparks aren't too visible and you want them more visible, that's what the spark size is for. And there's some spark turbulence as well. If you make them more turbulent, let's go with 100, maybe you would like to first of all change the amount, but also the buoyancy. Actually, that's too much. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that depends very much on what you're doing and what you want this for. Looking under the hood, we have flames, sparks, and smoke. The other system is very similar, it just doesn't have the smoke. And I'm not quite sure what else you can do with it. Oh yeah, I promised you, let's use this one. I promised you, I'll show you how to change the flame color. So unfortunately, it's not as simple as the other one, like I said. So you are going to have to change it to something like this. And use colors like that. If you want me to add special fire colors, do let me know, because obviously I do not have the gift of foresight. So yeah. Moving on, we have both ceiling and wall fire, which wall fire and floor fire are kind of the same thing. It's just fire walls. And there is a very notable difference between this one and that one. And that is because, let me show you. So this is the normal fire, right? And let's say you want it to span a very large area. You can just do that. And you can amp the fire amount, and that's it. But it doesn't look too realistic. That's because those types of fire have fuel. So we do have fuel with this version. Let me show you the, it's right there, fuel. And let me show you this version. You obviously can use this one on its own. You maybe want to duplicate it first and then change the amount, and maybe that's it. That depends, but yeah. And with this one, we have very different settings. So we have the fire amount, the fire radius. So the bigger the radius, the more the amount. And the smoke amount. Because obviously where there is fire, there is smoke. Now, with this one, it's a little more complicated because we have a bunch of emitters. So first of all, we have the flames. So if you want to change the color of these ones, it's gonna take a while. You're gonna have to go one by one. We also have flames wide. So these ones are going to be the thicker flames combined with the thinner flames. We also have sparks, just like the other fire, and we have the smoke, and obviously the fuel, as you can see. Now, they both, the wall and the floor and the ceiling ones, are kind of the same. The only thing that changes is the direction of the fire. So technically, you can, in fact, use the ceiling fire for a wall. It just looks slightly different. The fire one, because of the way it is, it kind of looks a little more thick. Let's just say the flames are a little longer. So that's kind of the difference, but you could actually just modify, which is what I did. But it's essentially the same. I think there's less fuel. Yeah, we don't have the fuel one, the fuel emitter. There's also pole fire, and this one works as a combination of the ground arcs, which you can change the length. Obviously, if you make it longer, you need to tweak the amount. Yeah, so that depends. I also use this one. It's really nice. Now, for the star of the show, we also have the flamethrower, which is freaking awesome. And whenever you get close to a wall, it collides with it. Looks really, really realistic. I have a character with a flamethrower, and yeah, definitely love it. Now, this one, I told you I was going to show you how to use it, and that was no lie. So, let me show you. Actually, we don't even need that. We can do that here. So we can change stuff like the distortion scale, which you may want some. This is all material driven, by the way. It just parameterized, so you can change the size of the distortion scale, make it thicker. It's almost like frosted glass. You can change the distortion speed. So maybe you have something like a Fata Morgana. And let's say, I don't know if you will be able to see, like if I turn it into something more realistic. Let's go with 3, 5. Yeah, this is what normal fire would look like. And the intensity, let's go with 0.5. So this is what a real life fire would look like. But I'm not sure it'll be too visible in the YouTube video or TikTok. I don't know where I'm going to upload this. So yeah. And obviously the particle amount, I do recommend to have a few because we do have a little bit of, sorry, it's taking a little bit. We do have a little bit of heavy type of particles, and this is because they have translucency. So as you can see, we are into the expansive territory. All of these are, unlike the smoke, kind of lost myself there. Okay, unlike the smoke, and never mind, this one is a little too expensive too. There is stuff like the dust pops, which are actually very cheap. Yeah, so the fire is a little too expensive. That's because it contains translucency. So just bear that in mind. Now, something to bear in mind as well is stuff like the light renderer. So here, let me show you the light renderer. In this case, in the flames, what I did was to make a some of them the flames to render the fire. But stuff like this, the flames kind of are very separate particles. So what I did was to make an invisible particle. So in this case, I hid the sprite renderer, and it just giant particles flashing on and off. Obviously that looks awful, but it is casting some kind of light. And again, that depends on how lit you want your scene and your Unreal version. You're gonna have to play with this a little bit because this depends very much on your particular case use. So bear that in mind as you edit your project. Now moving on onto the sparks. These ones are a little more complicated than just regular freaking sparks, because the spawn rate is what changes here, and you're gonna have to edit here your own, add more points, subtract points, that depends. And right now they have a very, very, very high number. So the spawn rate is actually just 1. But yeah, if you want something a little more, let's say, bountiful. Okay, that's too much. $50. Okay, 10. And again, this sparks, they are a little too big for my taste, but also they had to be visible here. So you can change the spark size there to something a little more realistic. Right? And because of the spark amount, I forgot to explain. Right now, it looks like an ungodly high number, but this is what happens if you add just 1. Yeah, you can't even tell it's there. Okay, so the spark lifetime doesn't change much, because what you really see is the burst in the beginning, and then after that your mind kind of ignores them. So I like to have these at a very small number, because after they come out and collide with something, you kind of forget about them. So it doesn't matter if you have like 10 seconds. You can watch them die on the floor, but I don't think it's worth it. See, they are at 1, and you can barely tell the difference. Again, if you want to change the cadence, you have to come down here and change this. And if you change the where is it? The loop duration. So let's say what is it? Let's go with 2, because if you go too short, now it's more like, the frequency is higher, so it goes more, it sparks them faster. You can also make them, oops, I messed up. The duration, yeah. So yeah, I forgot to say, so this little things, the longer the loop is, so let's say like I put there 100, just a ludicrously high number. I put there 100, so this little bit there, it will actually last longer for the burst, but in here, the space between these 2 peaks is going to take longer. So bear that in mind. Depends very much on what you want this sparks for. So if you want something like machinery sparks or stuff like that, or malfunctioning robot, whatever, bear in mind that these bursts, you either edit this thing, or make the change the loop. That depends very much on your case use. I try to make different cadences, This one, for example, it's constant. This one is faster. And let's take a look at this spawn rate. As you can see, there is that. And let's, for example, change this one. I'm leaving it selected so you can see which one it is, because I am aware that this can be confusing. Okay, so let's say here, let's make the loop duration to just 2.2. Looks almost constant, but for example, let's make it 2. Excuse me, 10. So there's a big pause, and then again, see? Yeah, right there. Okay, so now you see what I mean. So that is why there is several different ones. So this ones are for like malfunctioning machinery. This ones are for electrical fires. As you can see, they are bluish. And you can also change the velocity. So right now they're pretty fast. They are 1000, whatever this is, units, I guess. 1000 units fast. But you can make them slower or faster. And if you want, you can also amp the drag. I made them minimum and a maximum, so it just doesn't look too. Oh, it's this one's. Yeah. See? That depends on how far you want them to go. Moving on, we also have smoke, and this ones are just bursts. So the way I make them burst is through a blueprint. So same with the sparks, by the way. So this one is for like weapons or stuff that happens once. So if you want to trigger them, they are either triggered when you spawn them, or I don't think I have to explain this, but I feel like I'm mansplaining. But yeah, you know, just in case you're a rookie or beginner, a noob, I feel the need to explain that. Anyway, yeah, there is smoke residue. So this is for stuff like some machinery, some explosion, something blew up. And there's the smoke duration, which you can make it just like that, like a puff, or something longer, like maybe a valve. And by the way, if you want to, you can actually, right now it doesn't have, it has a velocity in point, but you can also turn it into a some kind of fire, excuse me, smoke leak, right? Obviously, the bigger, the stronger the velocity of the smoke, you may want to actually uh, change the particles per second. Same deal with the dust puff. This is far cheaper because the type of particle is different. This one, rather than translucency, it has, I think, just dithered particles, dithered opacity. It's a mask basically. So these ones are cheaper. And you can have the dust intensity. You can change the color as well. can change the number of particles, the particle strength, which is how far they are flung. And you can do that the same as this one. You can put it velocity and cone as well. We also have smoke puffs, which again, kind of like the smoke residue, but this one is faster. So these two ones are kind of the same one. This one is a puff, it's faster. That's it. Now, the difference between the smoke column and the smoke loop, it's this one, it does not collide too much with the ceiling, and also the type of particle. Let me explain. So let's take a point light, and just to make it more visible, let's make it red. Let's move it here. As you can see, the illumination between both of these is very different. This one has some kind of normal map. This one doesn't. So this depends very much on your case use. Let's make it even stronger. So as you can see, very different type of smoke. This one is like I put here, thick smoke, and this one is just normal smoke. They have very similar settings. Both have wind direction, so you also have the particle amount. And again, this does not mean it's referring to how thick physically the smoke is, although you can make it, this one looks better when you make it thicker. So let's thicken it for the sake of this demonstration. Oh, actually it didn't work. Oops. I think to make it bigger, you're gonna have to come down here. I don't know why it didn't work like with the other ones, but if you want thicker smoke, you just have to change the sphere radius to something thicker. And obviously, the thicker it is, you need more particles. So this would be like a massive fire. If you have that many particles anyway, you may want to make them slightly bigger. So if you have very thick, physically thick smoke, like for example, you have a chimney, industrial chimney in the distance, you don't want to do this. You don't want to have like a billion trillion particles, because that will screw up your frame rate. So what you want to come down here and change the size of the particles. You want bigger particles. Contrast it with a little longer lifetime. You're gonna have to change things, you know, fiddle with them based on your case use, right? So the reason why I also added this ceiling smoke, and same deal as with the ceiling fire, same type of settings. There's the amount, there is a lifetime. You can even change the smoke color. Maybe it's something toxic. Yeah. There's the intensity. And it's the same type of smoke as the thick smoke, so this would be like great for fires. And it almost makes me want to cough, you know. This ones can work in tandem for fire scenes. The fog, I used it for a cemetery pack. If you have seen that pack of mine, it's very simple. You can change the fog area, so how big the area is where the fog is. And the bigger the area, as we said, the more particles we need. So yeah, bear in mind that these particles are a little too expensive. So you want to, if you want a large area, you may want to come down here, and in both of these instances, you want to change the size, maybe. Maybe not make it too tall. These are non-uniform, so you want to make them bigger in X, but not too big in Y, just so it doesn't cover too much. And if you want like a huge area, like for example this, what I did was to adjust mist. So that's an atmospheric effect that comes with Unreal Engine. This goes out of the scope of this tutorial, so Google it, or look up a tutorial. But moving on, we also have thin smoke, and this could be used for cigarettes. But it's not too great for moving stuff. Now, what you can do is, if you have something that is constantly moving, but again, it's yeah, it's better for static things, like a malfunctioning engine, something broke, or there is a cigarette on an ashtray. That's perfect. You can change the particle amount, something smaller. That looks fantastic. Now, if you are going to use it for something like something moving, I do recommend that in your blueprint, you make it face the direction of the movement. So let's say it moves this way. You want it to tilt, excuse me. You want it to tilt that way. Let's say that way. So now it looks a little less sucky. No, it still sucks. Yeah, so don't move it. This is not a static, excuse me, not a dynamic type of smoke. It will work if you want to activate it. It works. Like something just broke and it's starting to smoke. That's fine. You can also change the turbulence, because I thought this effect would benefit from high turbulence, but don't go crazy, because see what happens. So maybe amp the particle amount. And the opacity, let's go with something like that. Yeah, again, don't go too crazy on the amount of particle. You also have wind direction, just like with the other ones. There you go. All right. Moving on, we also have water. And for these ones, just like the other ones, remember we had the blueprints to make them burst. So I'm going to have to simulate just so you can see them in action. Or what we can also do is to manually trigger them. So here we have a different view settings, and I think by far this is one of the most complex ones. We have droplet size, the explosion core, which that's the middle part here. The spawn amount, excuse me. Let's go with 35. And I do recommend to keep these low, but for something like this one, for example, if you have it too low, where is it? Spawn rate. It kind of just looks sucky. Obviously, the more particles you have, especially with this type of shader, which is translucent, And on top of everything, it has this refraction effect. It will impact your frame rate. Right now, this computer is actually better rated for Unreal 4.27. It runs like butter on here. So this all would be at 120 frames per second. Right now, we are a little below that. We are at 119 or 120, almost. We're below 120 frames per second, even though we have a lot of particles here. But that's only because this is Unreal Engine 5.1 and this computer is fairly old because I am not rich, unfortunately. Moving on, we can change stuff like the spawn count, the waterlet lifetime. So this is again like with the sparks, if you change it to something like 5, let's say, doesn't do much because this one does not have any kind of interaction with the floor. It just it's made to just kill, and this is great for stuff like water balloon stuff, small stuff. What really has some more interaction with the environment is this one, and it has similar settings to that one. So we can change the droplet amount. So let's go with something ludicrous as 5. This refers to the small droplets. That's the small ones. Droplet size. Yeah. Let's go with 10. That's the ones you're seeing. We have the explosion core size. So that's the big droplets. They are actually freaking invisible. Okay, you can't even tell them apart. Oh, sorry, that's not the size of the particles at the core. That's the actual size of the explosion. So if you have like a small barrel, or yeah, sorry about that. It's been a while since I made this thing. That's the strength, so that's how far it flings the droplets, and we also have strength here. We also have the tint, which is not the same as the tint we have for those quote-unquote paint, right? But if we have stuff like wine, which is what I use it for. So yeah, let's go there. So if we have stuff like wine, it's great for stuff like wine, or a slightly bloody water. If you have like a shark attacking and you have water and blood mixed, this is, I'm sorry, I can't keep this up calling it paint because otherwise it gets ridiculous. Yeah, you can have the waterlet lifetime, so that's how long it lasts before it disappears. Waterlet size. Now if you want less droplets, so not droplets, if you want less water particles, so that's spawn count, let's say you want 1/3 of that, you may want to change the waterlet size, and it looks kind of crappy air, but it fills up the space, you know. So again, you're gonna have to play around with those settings until you get the right kind of look that you're looking for. Now you also have liquid flow, and with this one, it's gonna be a little hard to, because we don't have much contrast and this thing is transparent. I don't know if you can see it without the, yeah, whatever. So for this one, it was designed to actually be like from a faucet, right? But if you want something like a stronger stream, you're gonna have to come down here to velocity and cone, and ideally you want to keep these close together, but if they are the same just the stream looks boring. So I made it a little more fun. Let's say if you change it too much, it looks a little more broken. I don't know if you can tell. I think you can tell better if we, yeah, right. So just bear that in mind if you want something more fun here. 19, right? 50, 55. You can also change the cone again for something a little more broken up, but this one was never designed. You can even make the sphere location that would make the stream thicker, and it would take a lot of work to actually make it a thick stream. That is why I made this one. Very similar settings, except a lot more. And not a lot more as in many more settings, but they do a lot more. So we also have dripping. So I don't know if you can see it there. You can also have that at 0. I just wanted, I thought it would look cooler if it's leaky. You also have the droplet size. Again, it's better to have them smaller. And it has rings for where the water impacts. I purposefully made it like that, uneven, so you can see the cool effect. Now, the problem with this one is that if you make the waterlet lifetime shorter, so 0.5, these effects where it impacts, it's actually set to particle depth. So let me show you under the hood. So basically, generate death event, and every time a particle dies or it's killed by any, in this case, they can be killed by an impact, so they touch something and disappear, or they could just die naturally, as in the particle life. So whatever the case is, when they die, they spawn one of these, actually all 3. The liquid impact, so that would be those little splashes. It also spawns a droplet, so it's a bunch of droplets, self-explanatory, and the little rings there. Now, unfortunately, you do have to bear in mind that the lifetime affects this. So depending on the height of your water leak or whatever, you may want to. Now, I did say you can use them in conjunction with this one, right? So if you're using it in conjunction with that one, I don't think you do need those things. So I do recommend to come down here to the impact and just disable them. I'm not going to, because I still have to go through all of these other ones. So yeah, I do recommend to disable them and just use these ones just for the effects. Just like with the fire, I separated them in 2 different ones just so you have more flexibility. But yeah, bear that in mind. Again, this one you also can tint it. Same with this thing. It could be poop water. It's parameterized, so you can change that in a blueprint. It can be poop water or urine water. That's disgusting. Yeah, so you can change that. There's not too much you can do with this one, because if you fiddle with this one, it will break the effect. I made it as realistic and best as I could, but if you do want to mess with it, the things to mess with it would be the vortex force amount, which if you go too high or too low, it starts to break down. So yeah. Now, if you are doing this into an effect, you want to parameterize this thing. You want to parameterize this thing, don't go too high. You may want to combine that with a mesh that goes up and down for the water of the toilet. Again, you can tint it, but I do not recommend messing with the settings too much. Now, just to conclude with the water particles, we also have rain, and this one was basically out of completionism just because we have this dripping thing, which, by the way, I didn't go with through with it. You can change the frequency, which was the water amount. Again, if you want more water, consider using the liquid flow. You can change. Oh my god. Sorry about that. The size of the impact. It's very simple. This one has little splashes. This one just has little thingies. Now, kind of the same thing with the rain. Now, something you must know is that we do have this wind direction thing. Like, for example, here we have it at relatively low number, 50, but in Unreal Engine 4.27, we have it at a considerably higher number, I think 250 or something like that, and the wind looks very weak. So yeah, you may want to consider that between Unreal versions, the wind effects aren't very great. And by the way, this one, even though the material is very, very cheap, you can barely see it there registering. Unfortunately, the more like let's say you have a whole stadium and you want rain on that whole entire stadium, unfortunately, this will actually be very expensive if you change the droplet amount. So rain amount, go with something crazy like that, and we can already see how the frame rate is going down. So again, if you want more rain, what I did in my forest effect, forest asset pack, what I actually did was to make the rain particle, instead of just one particle, then you can come here down here. And right now the waterlet is just one single particle. So you do want to have something along the lines of a bunch of rain particles, like several at the same time. If this video gets at least 1,000 likes, I will add that to this to this asset pack. I'm kidding, of course. Just let me know. I just didn't consider it necessary. I did consider it necessary for the forest asset pack because it's just such a large area. But in here, it's not really that necessary because this one is just for small areas. It's like for a patio or outside a house through a window. That's just perfect. But yeah, if you want large swaths of land, if you want, consider either this emitter just following the character everywhere, just so you have that area around the player just raining, which is exactly what I did for the forest asset pack. Yeah. Or actually just making the particles, single rain particles, just several. Again, up to you, but just piece of advice. Again, now moving on with these guys, is exactly same thing as those with the water, except this ones are going to be basically just the material changes. Exact same settings, exact same thing. Oh, by the way, as you can see, the rain disappears every time I move it out of screen. Yeah, that has to do with the bound scale. So if you want like something like, look, I'm looking down and the emitter is slightly out of my view. Now the rain disappears. That's because of the bound scale. So you're gonna have to set it something high. And bear in mind that this is going to be this is going to affect your frame rate, because normally this will disappear if you look away for like, I don't know, 20 degrees and it's already gone. Right now, because the bound scale it's still inside the visual field of the character, it will actually still be rendering, and that means it's gonna be taking away from your frame rate. Bear that in mind. Anyway, moving on with these guys. This is the paint, right? Let's call it what it is, blood. But you can also make it change the color. This one, by the way, has the same curse as the. I don't know if we can trigger that here. I think we can. Can we? Yeah, whatever. It happens the same thing. Oh, there it is. See? If you have certain angles, this will disappear. So bear that in mind. Make the bounds bigger, but bear also in mind that bigger the bounds, it will still render if it's out of view. It's a balancing act, remember. Anyway, moving on. You can have blue paint as well, if you, or green if it's a zombie. So yeah, same settings as the other ones, same thing. The only thing that changes is the material, and as you can see, these ones are more expensive. These ones are really cheap because they don't have any kind of translucency. It's just regular regular material. And in fact, you can even see, I don't think, let's freeze frame it. Oh, you cannot. Okay, there you go. You can even see how it is, how there is some dithering. Anyway, same deal as with this one. You already know it. We can do that. And if you are using this ones, remember to get rid of the splashes because you don't need them. You can either duplicate this this particle system and just freaking delete this ones, or just disable them, just in case you need to use it somewhere else. And this, again, this could be used for like a decapitation. It can just, you know, like a Tarantino style effect. Moving on, we also have fireworks. Again, we need to simulate, right? This one is a little expensive. Let me see if I can freeze frame it. Jesus, no, yeah, I couldn't. But in any case, let me see if we can. Yeah, it's, not only is the effect a little bit expensive, but also the graphic, excuse me, the particle system, because move this out of the way. Yeah, we have very high number of particles, 150, 15. Some of them are spawning particles as they go. Really pretty, yeah, but just bear in mind, and you can actually take the number down to something like 5 in here, like whereas 15 in here. We can the reason why I didn't input a master number is just because it's such a complex system that when you tie everything to a single number, I realized this with the with the liquid systems, that it just breaks the whole effect. So yeah, you may want to come down here and edit by hand manually. And again, we don't have user parameters because again, it's a little complicated to change the color. So this one, for example, just fire colored because it's the sparks. As you know, the sparks from the explosion are spark colored. And here we have just a single color. That's easy. But in here, we have a hotspot. So, right? So we have a hotspot. And yeah, it doesn't work if we have a single color. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to come down here and change it by hand. Again, the explosion changes. Yeah, you're gonna have to change it by hand. But yeah, we have two colors, red and green, in case you need different colors. I didn't bother with blue, but you can do it yourself. If you would like more firework colors, do let me know, and I will add them to the next to the next update. Obviously, if there is only one person asking for it, I can't bother with it. But if there's a bunch of people asking for stuff like that, I will definitely add more firework colors. Moving on, we have weapon effects, and for this one, we again gonna have to simulate, right? Again, these are very, very simple effects, kind of similar to the water one, all of them. And you can change the color because this is paint, right? We can have blue or green or whatever paint color your little heart desires. We also have different colors of glass. So if you don't want greenish glass, you can have red glass, and you can also change the color of the smoke as well. Oops. Yeah, you have to. So yeah, we also have default hits. You can change the particle amount. If you want, I try to optimize for the best looking version, but if you want something like more violent, like going, you know, going more farther than some of them, you can just change it here in the add velocity in cone. I added 2 minimum and maximum just because you don't want all of it going at the same rhythm, at the same distance. So some go further, some go closer, just for variation's sake, and so it looks more realistic. I didn't bother also changing the make dynamic the amount of particles because there's just so few. There's only 8 of them, but you can definitely change that, especially with the glass. You don't have a shard amount. Just get back to the original. You don't have a shard amount, but you can totally change the amount of shards that are being thrown. Right now there's only 5, but you can change these. I just didn't bother making it dynamic here, just because too many and it breaks the effect, too few and you can't even tell they're there. So yeah, you can definitely edit them. Same thing with the sand, dirt, and stone. It has little chunks of matter. You can check that out here. Those little stones. Yeah. Just same with this one. It has sparks again. You can mostly change the lifetime and the smoke puff opacity, but if you want to come down under the hood. There's two types of sparks, and you can change the amount of them. Obviously, again, I didn't bother because add a little bit more and it's gonna be wasteful. Add a little less. And oops, that's the wrong one. I pressed the wrong button. Right. Yeah. So, and unlike the other ones, because this one happens too fast, I made them big by default, but if they are too big for you, come down here and change the size to 1 and 3. That would be ideal if you want something more close range, but since you're gonna be looking at them like from this distance usually, right, you can barely tell they're there. There's also projectile tracers. They are composed of the orb. So we have the core, which you can, by the way, get rid of if you have something different for your missile. And yeah, we have those as there's smoke amount. Whoopsie daisy. I think I overwhelmed it. Smoke lifetime, that's how long you want your trail to go. And by the way, because your projectile moves through the air, and these ones are already like projecting down like backwards, yeah, you do want to maybe make them slower. I don't know how fast your projectile is gonna go, so you're gonna have to come down here and do it yourself. All of them have this trail particle emitter, so you want to change the velocity in cone to something slower, just because they are already being flung backwards and your projectile is moving forwards, right? So just make sure they are not like they're. I already tried it with missiles and it just looks weird. You can barely see the particles because they are going too fast towards you. Besides, it's going too fast forward, so the spacing between one particle and another, yeah. You may also want to, actually, we can simulate that here. Let's get rid of the, yeah, okay. Yeah, see, it's moving forward. So you may want to make the speed of the particle backwards a little slower, or just none at all, because it's moving forward. And speaking of moving forward, there's 3 types of projectile, of missile thing. So there's this one that has smoke rings, and that's like a little nod towards that movie, The Eraser, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which has this kinetic projectile thing. So yeah, it had like these rings of smoke that it left. In fact, smoke amount, I think it's smoke amount. Oh, which one am I? Oh, oops, that's the wrong one. Okay, yeah, now this is the right one. Okay, so 0.5, I guess. No, 0.25, 0.15. Yeah, something like that. Maybe make the little rings slower, or maybe add a little bit of drag. Just make sure. Actually, this one should work visually. If we, yeah. Okay, see, I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, yeah, I hope you could see what I'm talking about. Same thing with the same deal with the plasma projectile. Same deal with the plasma projectile, which kind of has the same settings, just different type of look. And you can actually change the color of the projectile here. So yeah, that all depends on the type of sci-fi epic that you're trying to portray here. You can also, if you want to, make it fire colored. Just yeah, a little bit that we can. Yeah, something like that. There you go. Oh, it looks a little bit more fiery. Now there's also explosions, which this one's again, as with the heat distortion, they are very, 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 very finicky here in Unreal Engine, and also obviously on screen or for demonstration purposes, you cannot tell they are even there. So I made them hyper visible, but if you come down here, you may want to come down here to both the heat distortion, right? The heat distortion. And maybe you would like to change. Actually, you don't even need to come down here. I forgot. I put that into a distortion intensity. Yeah, see, this looks a little more realistic, but you can barely tell it's there with the other one. So that's why I made them a little more visible, right? Another thing I put there is the explosion lifetime, which again, that depends on how big your explosion is. The explosion amount, maybe it's a small explosion, maybe it's a big explosion. You may want to combine that with the explosion lifetime. The explosion size, tiny explosion, big explosion. This wouldn't work for a nuclear explosion, by the way. So there is a size limit at which this type of thing would work. Too small and it will look kind of ridiculous. And too big, it will also look a little bit ridiculous. There's also shockwave intensity, which is that shockwave. Now, I noticed that here in Unreal Engine 5.1 and 4.27, they both look fantastic-ish. Again, you have to fiddle with it. But in further versions of Unreal, like 5.3, 5.5, 5.6, 7, 8, all of them, Jesus Christ, I don't know, it's the exact same number, except for some reason, Unreal cranked the values internally, like it becomes overwhelming. So if you are using it on a very high version of Unreal Engine, like one of the latest, bear that in mind. You may want to crank this down a little bit. There's also a different type of shockwave. I don't know if you can tell that that little smoke ring that spawns out of the explosion. You can also change that, but not so easily. So I think there it is. And that's the smoke shockwave. This one was a little finicky, so I didn't even bother giving it special things. But if you don't want it or don't like it or want to mess with it, this is the place to do that. And it's a velocity in cone rather than velocity from point. So yeah, bear that in mind while you are messing with it. It is affected by the explosion lifetime, but yeah, I do not recommend messing with it. The only difference between this and that is actually just the little where is it? The debris. And one known bug is that sometimes it will not spawn too much debris here. I don't know why. As you can see in the preview, sometimes it'll spawn a lot, sometimes it'll spawn a little. I do not know why. Although, yeah, I have no idea. I thought it maybe it had some kind of random amount. It does not. It does not have a random range float. It spawns the exact same amount here always, but it does not in the in the other one. But if you want to, you can actually have it use a spawn burst instantaneous, which I'm not sure it will change much, but yeah. I think it has to do with the mesh renderer. But you can actually change the debris amount here. 150, for example. But yeah, if you're not entirely happy with the spawn rate, what you can do is come down here, spawn burst instantaneous. You can actually multiply int and user amount. And what is it? Debris. Oh, actually. All right, so you cannot, unfortunately, change the use this one because I think it's a float. The user, yeah, it is a float. So yeah, you're gonna have to like read from user parameter, spawn count. In fact, let's change it to some reason it won't let me. Um, let's go 150. And now it should work slightly different, but again, I've tried it both ways. It still does the same thing. That depends very much on your case use. I really liked it to the way it works, the randomness of that method. So moving on. The muzzle flares work in kind of the same way as these guys, except they do have a whole lot more let's say layers. And here's what I mean. Now, unfortunately, just like some of the other things, the sprite color is also a little finicky because they are different, and it's easier if I show you with the preview scene settings. And let's get rid of the environment. Let's look at it black. So now we can see, and there's different sides to this, right? So it starts with that. So this would be used for something like a revolver or a some kind of weapon like that. So it has a more yellow, more rich deflagration, and therefore these colors are a little warmer. So they have three basic parts. There's the crown, which would be this. There's the core, which would be this. And then there's the decorations, such as this, which would be like the directionality. It gives it a little more oomph, like it's projecting speed. Then there's this part, which is again part of the decorations. More decorations. This would be like the hotspot. It's used in conjunction with that one. They all have different speeds and different. You can get rid of some of them, and you wouldn't see much change if you're looking at it from afar. But if you're looking at it in slow motion and a little too close, especially when you're playing a first-person shooter, all these layers do make a huge difference. They don't have too many particles either, but together they do they do compound into a large amount of particles. They all have heat distortion, which may or not be visible on all of the guns. So these are all things that you may get rid of, like this one, the hotspot or the heat distortion. I wouldn't recommend to get rid of the smoke. And again, the scale and color, they all have slightly different variations. That is why I couldn't have given it a master color, except for these two, which do have master colors. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let me get a little closer and make the okay. So this one does have user parameters. It has a core color and it has a crown color. As you can see, the crown is still blue. So you want to make the core a little more yellowish, maybe a little brighter. And you want to make now the lighting from these guys sometimes it's a little too overwhelming. And again, this may come and go with different versions of Unreal. So make sure you tweak properly this light renderer depending on the size and the version of Unreal Engine. I'm sorry, I tried to make it cross version compatible. It was just too much to keep track of. So you're gonna have to like maybe make this number a little higher, and it should make it a little less visible. In any case, these all work kind of the same. They just have different types of particles. Again, I didn't know what your particular case use was gonna be. So I tried to make it as generic as possible, as all of the stock footage or stock stuff is. Now this is the um, glass explosion. It also needs a blueprint to be triggered. Again, this has a little, it's a little too fast. So you may want to tweak the speed. But yeah, this is what screen breaking would look like, or a glass breaking. You can actually change the size. Change the size of this thing. And obviously, if you have such a large area, you may want to make the glass, excuse me, the smoke or puffs slightly bigger, but at the same time, slightly more more transparent. Just bear that in mind, okay? And you can change the color of the glass, the color of the dust, just like with the other ones. You can change the puff lifetime. You can make it last longer um, or make it faster or last longer. And there's a quick setting for the explosion strength in case you don't want to come in and do it by hand at the velocity in cone. Maybe it exploded. In any case, pretty simple one. Same with the insects, but here in this case, the effect is material driven. So it's just noise and there's some displacement and it looks like they are flying, but that's all about it. You can change the number of insects. Doesn't work very much with the moths, but it works wonderfully with the flies. And I specifically put, I think, a light in there just so it illuminates the insects. Oh no, my god, this looks disgusting. For those who don't know, I hate insects. So yeah. Ugh, gave me the heebie-jeebies. Oh, and you can change also the size of this thing. Just make it like that. Oh, actually, no, you cannot. And that is because you have to come down here and change the sphere location. Something smaller and something bigger. Okay. There's a minimum size, unfortunately. The reason because there is a minimum size is because actually there is a good god, that is disgusting. There's a minimum size, and the reason is because we have a problem here where the reason they move so realistically is because they have a noise, randomness to it. So the movement of this randomness, the minimum size for them to look this realistic, the movement is unfortunately that size. So no matter how small you make the insect bunch, it's not gonna go lower than that. But moving on, we also have these, which is a treasure trove of decals that you can use for almost anything. So we have paint puddles. You can have them in any color you want. Not just red, purple, green, whatever. I actually use them for both acid and blood in my game. Now, these and those are the exact same, but these ones have... they actually don't have any normal. This one have normals, so they look like they have some viscosity. This one don't. So whenever you overlay them on top of something like stone or cobblestone or some kind of sand, it will look like it's wetting those materials. And that's one of the reasons why I put that this light from below there, just so you can appreciate the effects on these guys. And obviously these ones, which are metallic. The settings for these ones are actually very numerous, but for this ones in particular, they mostly don't do anything. So you can have them, you can change how rough the liquid is. And they are all, by the way, a very nice atlas. You can change how flat they are. Which, by the way, if you do have texture, even though they may look very similar, like here, flatness 1, right? They may look very similar, but this one will override the normals of whatever you put it on. So make sure if you want something like to look just wet, but the liquid has no viscosity, just use this one. And if you want the best of both worlds, well, tough luck, buddy, because that's not gonna work, unfortunately. But you can actually make it slightly transparent, and maybe if you can make it stronger here. So this will, if you give it a negative number, this will make the normal stronger, and but still the color is still going to look off a little bit. So bear that in mind. This is gonna be a little give or take. These are at least as of Unreal Engine 5.1. I didn't check on further versions, because this was all of it was developed for Unreal Engine 4.27 and 5.1. Both of those things kind of like this is the best we can do for this. Anyway, moving on. We have dirt, glass. All of these guys work similarly, so I'm just going to show you some of them. They all have the same master material, and yeah, they have 2 colors. So mostly the color you're gonna be seeing is this one. So whatever you change this one to, that's going to be this is gonna be the dominant color. So if you have blue, for example, the other one may be something like that. It's not gonna be very visible, but you can change how much each color has here, like the real estate of each color, by moving this slider here. And that just depends on what kind of thing you want. So this is, for example, for dirt. By the way, they all have very nice, what do you call it? Very nice depth. So they have POM, parallax occlusion mapping. And it depends on how deep you want your effect to go. And again, as I said in the beginning, it does break if you don't know what you're doing. So make sure you don't go too crazy with the parallax occlusion mapping and the effect. Anyway, moving on. You can adjust things as the alpha, the metalness, if any. Especially this is for things like these guys here. But I guess they can work on anything else. You can adjust the metalness, the roughness, in case you want it a little glossier if it's wet or something. Obviously, if it's wet, try to make them a little darker, because this is sand. I don't think I should be telling you that. There's some emission settings for some of them, not all of them. Not all of them have emission. This one's, again, they have... you can change the color. It doesn't necessarily have to be red. You can change it to green, for example, blue, purple, yellow, whatever that color is. So you can change it to anything. And again, you have this slider between one and the other. You can even have two colors. And it all depends on how you want it. There's also snow, which is kind of recycling this one. There is two types of broken glass. There is broken screens and that, and you can also change the color of the glass. Maybe you want it a little more blue. Well, there you go. And you can change that here. That pretty much depends on what shade of glass. I tried to make this one as realistic as possible, and the most realistic one is the one that has iron salt, which makes tints the glass slightly blue-green. It's not even cyan, it's like aqua colored. But yeah. That doesn't work very well for these ones, unfortunately, because as you can see, they all share the same color scheme. So if you change this darker color to something like red, it will be tinting it and it will look a little crappy. Same story with the beautiful wood, which you can actually have any wood you like. So in this case, I made some kind of mahogany, but it could be some nice cedar. That depends very much. There you go. It's kind of hard to get right. There you go. I think this would be some kind of cedar. And I tried to make it as generic as possible, but what you're gonna have to do is to place these. So this is what I did for my game. Yeah, you have to place this on your thing, on your wooden asset, and then mess with these colors. Now, earlier I mentioned, and this is a good one for the example, earlier I mentioned we have POM settings. So we can go as far as we want. And like I said, if you go too far, it breaks. But also, sometimes you do need to have to go a little deep. And this is a good example because wood is soft. So bullet hit wood actually make it, like carved in. So whenever you have holes so deep, you want to change this min and max values, min steps and max steps, to a little higher. In this case, this, because of the texture, it does work. But in some cases, such as this one, for example, it starts breaking really quickly. And you'll notice we already have high numbers in here. 64 by 128. That's because it goes very deep. So the more layers you have here, the more steps you have in this area, the more you're gonna have to struggle with these issues. So try to have this balancing act right, where if you're not gonna have this too close to the player, maybe have fewer steps. And if you're gonna have it too close to the player, maybe, do that. 156. Again, this will break your game. This will affect your frame rate. Even though right now it's showing 120, it will affect your frame rate. You do, yeah, if it goes too low, it will break your game if you're not careful, especially if you have too many of these. So use these sparingly and be mindful of the steps. What else? Now, the way these work is through these guys. So try not to mess with X and Y, or Y and X, the way I have it here, because it will actually change your this guy, right? So right now we're here, and the more you change, they do have different coordinate system. Excuse me, they do have different coordinate systems. So this one is at 0.125th, and this one is I don't remember. But yeah, these guys, they do have different coordinate systems. You can see them here. Oh, excuse me, that's not even 125th. It's 0.0625th. So that's divided by, I think, 16 of these. And these are 4. No, excuse me, these are 8. These are 4, so on and so forth. So, yeah. These are really carefully crafted. Now, moving on, we have metallic bullet holes. And again, you do have this thing where you can change the color of the diffuse. Unfortunately, let's use this one instead. That's a little closer. Okay, perfect. So okay, so this would be gold color. You can copy these values if you want to. This would be a little more expensive gold. This would be brass. You can copy those colors. This would be a aluminum. Around this area would be some kind of steel. This would be copper. Hold on. Tell you when. There. That would be copper. There's several types of copper. So that would be something along the lines of cable copper, but this copper would be a little more electrical in nature. This would be cobalt. Hold on. That would be cobalt. And this would be titanium. Obviously, you can go as crazy as you want. That's just little suggestions. And again, these are the ones that break the easiest. If you make them, if you go too far. I tried to optimize as best as I could. These ones on top, they are the ones that are harder to break, but these ones that have like these little tendrils, little hanging bits, they do break very easily. So yeah, they are not designed to be looked at up close, especially these ones. Now, these ones are really cool because they do have 2 layers, and this requires a little bit of explanation. And for that, in fact, we are just going to take this one, which is a virgin, and this one has none. This one has 0 of them. So if you want to apply it to one that does not have any at all, you're gonna have to come down here and go UL settings. And it looks like nothing happens. So you're gonna have to come down here, then take this, that's the mask, and there you already are halfway there. Now, next, you're gonna have to come down here and activate all of these that have to do with the UL. And as you can see, actually, you cannot see. As you can see, this is the one we want to use, but because this is too big, we're gonna have to use another one. But for these ones, smaller ones, we can use that one, so we are going to. So we have an atlas coordinates for the UL, right? So that's gonna be 0, 1, 2, 3, and same 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Obviously, here we have these ones are at 1/6, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 by 3. We're gonna have to use 0.25. That's the, or you can, if you're not sure, you can just use 1 divided by 4. That's 1.25. And the coordinates are gonna be 3 by 3. And there we are. And we have stuff like the min steps or max steps. We have the, I wouldn't recommend messing with that. That's fine. What I do recommend messing with is how deep you want it. And unfortunately, here we're going to encounter this problem because this is a very large hole. This now looks like hell. So we also have these settings, right? So first of all, we have the brightness and the shadow, right? So that's how bright it is. I recommend it leaving it the way it is. But in this case, I do not recommend it to leave it the way it is because obviously it's smaller. The way I made it that, the reason I made it that way is because it's a single atlas, right? So because you're using the same atlas for the whole thing, that means that you can actually it has less draw calls. It's obviously just 3 because it's actually 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. those four guys, or just one draw call for the material, that's just one material. However, like we established, it's too small. And the reason why it is too small is because we do have other Atlas objects here. So I didn't want it to show in the, to bleed into the other elements. So for that, we have use different UL material. Now, we're not gonna use another real material. We're gonna use just a different set of textures, which now, if we push it way back, now we have some leeway. And by the way, this shadow, it's just the shadow that this projects on this. As you can see, we have some shadow effects, and it's using the red, excuse me, the green part of the texture. Anyway, yeah. And we can change the size of the texture as well, which we couldn't with that, with the original one, where we're not using a different quote-unquote material. And this is mostly for something like this. You wouldn't be able to even tell for these ones, but you can certainly add it to those. Again, same story. And this one, in this one, we are using the, like in the other one, right? Moving on, we also have bullet holes, which again, same story as the wood. Same story as the wood. We can change the color and we can like the different ones. Same settings, we can make it deeper, we can make it more shallow. And that does apply to these ones, except, however, most of these are to save in material costs, right? We're using the red channel of the image. The green is used for roughness and the blue is used for metallic, which in this case we're using the blue for emission, which I'll show you in just a little bit. Bear with me because we have a lot to go through. So, right. So we have the red in most of them, we have the red channel just for the color, and you can colorize it here. But what happens when you have several colors like here and here? Well, what we do use is we use this little switch here, which where is it? Standalone diffuse. So what that means is that it's gonna use a special texture just for that, just so we have different colors there. All right, it has the same settings as the other ones and the same drawbacks, but you cannot colorize it. Now, I promised I would show you something cool with the emission, and that is because we have, let's just pretend you have a laser shotgun, right? And it has laser pellets. Don't ask me how that works. Let's just pretend for the sake of it. Okay. Bam. Let's say it's magic. It's a magical shotgun. Magical laser. So it's Star Warsy. Okay, yeah. So yeah. You can leave it like that. Maybe you could even add the smoking effect. And this also applies to the wood ones, but it does not apply, sadly, it does not apply to the other ones. Like the metal ones should be the ones that realistically should have this effect because metal gets red hot. However, I could not make it work, make it look any good. So yeah, only wood has it. And it can be turned on and off, but once you turn it on, it also has other effects like we need to make it bigger. Okay, so there's a shimmering speed, right? I made it exaggerated. It has shimmering speed and shimmering amount. So there you go. It shimmers. And you can also change it to something magical. Right. So there you go. Same deal with the cracks. They don't have much to grasp. They do. You can change the color, but you can barely tell. Actually, no, you cannot, because they are part of that diffuse material. So yeah, that would be all for this overview / tutorial. Do let me know if you have any questions or if I need to expand on this tutorial. Obviously, we went through a lot of information today. So if you have any questions or I missed something once you download this asset pack, let me know. Send me a message or leave a comment, DM me, whatever. You can ask any questions and I will try to either respond them or make a tutorial just for you or just for the group of people struggling with that particular thing. But for now, thank you very, very, very much for watching. Thank you very much for your purchase. And if you are looking forward to any other product, anything else, anything new, do let me know and I will make a video about that. But for now, take care of yourself, have a wonderful day, and I am out.